Hi, my name is Jeremy Burke. I'm the Assistant High School Principal at the United Nations International School, and within the context of this project, I was the facilitator and co-participant. How do you spark teacher entrepreneurship and speed the process of innovation in a school from concept to classroom impact? Just as students in a technology-supported learning environment should have control over the time, place, path, and pace of their learning, teachers, when participating in professional learning, should have a similar freedom. Unfortunately, traditional forms of professional development have not fully permitted learner control over the learning process. Up to this point, teachers receive student input about the quality of a unit of study too late in the lesson design process, only after the unit has been delivered. In schools, teachers are often frustrated with the quality and usability of learning applications and EdTech tools. This perhaps is a result of the troubling disconnect between EdTech developers and student and teacher users. The vision of the Blended Learning Lab is to foster new and effective ways, through best practice in blended and online education, to improve the personalization of learning and to inspire further innovation by connecting teachers with EdTech startups and developers. The Blended Learning Lab works at 3 levels. First, at the classroom level, we design, build, and test new learning modules in an intense environment and compressed time period. We supply teachers with know-how and the tools to personalize learning around the unique strengths, interests, and needs of each student. Second, it works at the EdTech ecosystem level. We connect 2 worlds at the moment that exist in a measure of isolation. We provide opportunity for conversation between developers, students, and teachers, inspiring improved and empathetic product development. Third, the Blended Learning Lab works at the systems level. We build capacity and develop and promote the kinds of policies and processes in the school that inspire further innovation. The Blended Learning Lab is comprised of several complementary facets. In preparation for the module design and building phase, teachers enroll in a blended professional development course that runs before, during, and after the lab. The course introduces teachers to the most effective teaching methods and activities in blended and online learning and models these approaches through its design and delivery. The design and building phase provides a hands-on environment where teachers can express entrepreneurial spirit and are given time, support, and inspiration to create modules for individual courses. Teachers are supported in this work by a content strategist, a teacher or a technology integrator with prior experience in blended and online learning. The role of the strategist is not to build individual elements of a module, but to help the teacher determine how they should be combined to create a blended module that is more effective and compelling for students than the current unit of study being offered. Allowing students to act as contributors during the design and building phase also plays a vital role in driving further innovation within a school. Working to foster agency for their learning with technology, students serve as curriculum reviewers and tutorial designers. Having students take up these roles establishes a new culture of teaching and learning. An important activator of student and teacher creativity was the opportunity to have this experience embedded within a co-working space in Manhattan. We open up possibilities by connecting with people who share our values and who are interested in the synergy that comes with working in a community of like-minded and talented people. While perhaps complex, each of these elements were important, sparking teacher entrepreneurship and speeding the process of innovation from concept to classroom impact. I invite you to hear from the participants of the first iteration of the Blended Learning Lab.
I also want to shed light on how powerful I found the student participation element. I was really fortunate to have 2 former students that had just taken my theory of knowledge class, fresh off of that, full of ideas that go way beyond just a class survey at the end of the year on what you like, what you don't like. These guys were charged up with not only constructive criticisms, but active, interesting ideas that really invigorated me to be like, anytime they were in the room, I wanted to jump on them and figure out what they were going to think of next, because it's totally coming from a perspective I don't normally have.
Anyways, so while Willem, he focused on the specific work that we did, I'd like to focus on the general environment. So upon entering blended learning, I personally felt overwhelmed. Overwhelmed in the sense that there was a sudden change of environment, coming from a school to a blended learning workspace, while school is a more incarcerating experience. You're kind of, relatively, you're forced behind a desk, you have to look one way in what the teacher says. You kind of have these like horse blinders on. And the moment you take those off, a teacher will come up and say, hey, stop it, you're cheating. Whereas in a blended learning workspace, you take those blinders off and you talk. A colleague will come over and be like, hey, good job, you're collaborating. And it was right from the start, blended learning had provided us with a really solid foundation. We were given these open offices, which gave me a relaxed state of mind. There were intimate conference rooms, which really brought teachers to our level. And it bridged the gap between, it bridged the unspoken gap between teachers and students. And although UNIS tries to keep it at a minimal, it is there. But at the blended learning workspace, students became consultants and teachers became colleagues, and which made them, as Willem said, it was really easy to talk to the teachers. And the reason this led to another benefit was that disappointing them was it was a greater deal if you disappointed them, because it was more like disappointing a friend rather than disappointing your boss. Whereas if you don't do your homework or something at school, you think, oh, I'm sure someone else hasn't done it. The teacher will have to split the disappointment. There are some students in every school who are like, they're rebellious. They're burned out on this hierarchical system of this like chain of order and authority. And although I do empathize with them, I felt indifferent because I thought that this was the only system of education, and it is doing a good job, at least for me. But I'm really glad that I can finally tell them that it's all right. There is hope. I have seen the future, and it's a good one. In regards to the actual work, as Willem said, we created the question banks. But what's most important about these is not the quantity of the questions that there's now, it's the rate at which they were created. Although it started off slow, by the second week, it was almost like mechanical. I was pushing out questions like a small assembly line. And this upward trend provides, I think, nothing but a really great forecast of what's to come. And that is the greatest challenge. It's convincing the students of what I have seen, and that it has a really great future. And it was nothing short of a privilege to really get the ball rolling. And a lot of people say that a rolling stone gathers no moss, but the way I saw blended learning was like a snowball. If you push a snowball down a hill, by the end of it, it's collected a lot more snow and affected a lot more people from the start.
For me, the two major things for the blended learning experience was rethinking homework assignments and also giving students more responsibility for their own learning and for each other's learning.
For me, blended learning was the most efficient way I have found so far to support differentiation in the classroom. We can argue that these ways were available before, but I think that with blended learning, we have a wider scope and efficiency that was not available before. I think that blended learning opens the doors of the classrooms to other classrooms, to other students, and I would like to say to the world, and space, the final frontier.
One of my favorite parts of the workshop was not only were we able to work with people from different departments, but we were also able to work with people from different careers.
Then UNIS said at that time, okay, we're going to introduce Apple, but you have to take the course 10 hours first, then 40 hours, we will give you a computer in your classroom, 40 hours. LK and I, we struggle, we went every Wednesday, we went for 2 hours, for 20 weeks, okay? So you get the computer right away, no problem. What I found is interesting is this institute during the summer that allowed me something which I said, I have all the experts around me, surround me all the time, and that have helped me to learn. And I put myself in a place of the student, how they learn. So I'm speaking that this way in order to let all of you, and especially maybe the one who's a little bit, old hand, scary, but it's very interesting. So come and join in, because this is one of the greatest initiatives. It may be something very interesting happen to us in education. So I invite you to join.